The most important car Audi has ever built isn't the most expensive one. It isn't the fastest one either. This is it, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why almost the entire current lineup, from the A3 all the way to a new 499-unit hybrid supercar, is really just a variation on one idea. An idea this exact car introduced in 1980. Here's the trap most buyers fall into. They assume Audi's lineup is a straight line from cheap to expensive, and the more you spend, the better the car gets in every way. That logic works for refrigerators. It doesn't work here. These models aren't ranked worst to better. They're built around completely different philosophies, different use cases, different buyers, different priorities. If you don't understand that split, you will almost certainly overpay for capability you'll never use. Let's start at the beginning. A1 and A3, the entry point into the brand. Here's the part your dealer won't volunteer. The A3 sits on the same MQB platform as a regular Volkswagen Golf. Same bones, different clothes. The real difference isn't the engine, and it isn't the chassis. It's sound insulation, cabin materials, switchgear feel, and yes, the badge on the wheel. None of that is a bad thing. You just need to know what you're actually paying the premium for. The entry-level Audi makes sense if that specific cabin experience matters to you at a reasonable price point. It stops making sense the moment you buy it thinking you're getting a real Audi at a discount. You're not. You're getting a very well-dressed Golf, and that's a perfectly fine thing to want. Quick detour while we're here, because most people have never even heard of this one. The A2, discontinued back in 2005. Aluminum space frame body, lighter than plenty of hatchbacks being sold today, 2 decades later. It's sold poorly, but it's where Audi first tested ideas about weight and efficiency that show up everywhere in the lineup now. Sometimes the failure is more important than the hit. Moving on. The executive tier, A4 and A6. Different platform here. MLB Evo on the outgoing cars, the newer PPC underneath the latest generation. And this is where the difference stops being about the cabin and starts being about how the car actually drives. Sitting in between them is the A5. Mechanically, it's very close to the A4. Same platform logic, same engine options in most markets, just wrapped in a coupe or sportback body instead of a sedan. People buy the A5 for the shape, not the practicality. That's a completely reasonable reason to buy a car. Just don't expect wagon-level cargo space and be surprised when you don't get it. The A6 is the sensible middle ground. Comfort and driving feel balanced against each other. For most buyers, this is actually the ceiling of what they need from a sedan. Very few people driving an A6 are leaving performance on the table that actually matters to their daily life. The SUV lineup. Q2, Q3, Q5, Q7, Q8. This part is refreshingly simple. The higher the number, the bigger the car, and the higher the segment. No platform sharing trick to explain here, unlike the A3 in the Golf. Here's why this matters. The SUV lineup is where this brand genuinely makes its money. So much so that when Audi needed to replace the flagship sedan that just disappeared, the answer wasn't another sedan. Meet the Q9. The new full-size flagship of the entire brand, a direct rival to the BMW X7 and the Mercedes GLS. The full reveal happens just days after this video goes live. European availability lands toward the end of the year. North America won't see it until 2027 at the earliest, possibly not until 2028. So if the top of the lineup is what you actually care about, this is a strange moment to be shopping. The old flagship just died, the new one hasn't even been fully shown yet. Quick detour before the emotional part of this video because it matters for almost everything we just covered.
Nearly every model we just walked through has an S version and an RS version sitting above it. Think of it as a dial, not a completely different car. S turns it up one notch. More power, tighter suspension, sharper steering, usually a meaningfully higher price. RS turns it all the way up. The most power and the most aggressive chassis tuning the platform can realistically support without turning into a different vehicle entirely. SQ5, RS3, S6, RSQ8, I'm not breaking each of these down individually here, that's genuinely a full video on its own. The pattern to remember is simple. The number tells you the size class, the letter tells you the temperament. One more thing worth knowing before we move on. S models are usually a genuinely livable daily driver with extra bite. RS models increasingly ask you to accept some daily life compromises, stiffer ride, thirstier fuel economy. In exchange for performance, most owners will use maybe a handful of times a year. Keep that trade-off in mind because it matters more than the badge does. And now, the part this whole video was really built around. Audi puts a permanent all-wheel drive system into a production road car. Today, that sounds like a checkbox option in a configurator. Back then, it sounded like cheating. So much so that after the Quattro started winning, Rally's governing body had to rewrite the regulations. Nobody had planned for a production car to behave like this on a stage. This is where the entire Quattro philosophy actually starts, not as an ad slogan, as a car that forced an entire motorsport to change its rulebook.
Fast forward about a decade and a half, the RS2 Avant, mid-1990s, a wagon that could out-accelerate supercars of the same era in a straight line, built in partnership with Porsche. This is the car that actually wrote the formula every RS model since has been following. So the real question is, what from that formula survived into the current cars, and what's just a sticker on the fender at this point? All-wheel drive, a noticeably lower ride height, an engine that's clearly more powerful than daily driving requires, that part carried over intact. What didn't fully carry over is some of the race-bred technology language in the marketing, which doesn't always hold up once you're looking at the base trim of the RS lineup rather than the flagship variant. RS makes sense if you actually use that reserve of power. Track days, serious backroad driving, genuinely spirited use. If you don't, you're paying for a number in the spec sheet you'll never see reflected on the speedometer in real-world driving. And here's where all of that history eventually leads.
The Nuvolari, named after Tazio Nuvolari, an Italian racing driver from the 1930s best known for one thing: refusing to lose, even in cars that had no business winning. This isn't a concept car teased for a motor show and quietly forgotten. It's a confirmed production model, the direct successor to the R8. A hybrid V8 developed with direct input from Audi's Formula One program. Only 499 units. Deliveries begin in early 2027.
Watch how this actually connects. 1980, a production car with technology that was too radical for its era. 2026, a production car with technology that is, once again, too radical for its era. That's not a coincidence. That's the same brand philosophy, separated by almost half a century. And since we're already talking about where the brand is headed, a short word on the electric side of the lineup. e-tron, Q4 e-tron, Q6 e-tron, all of them are gradually shifting onto the newer PPE platform. This isn't the video where I compare gas ownership costs to EV ownership costs in detail. That's a separate, much deeper topic I'm covering on its own. For now, just know this part of the lineup exists, and it's growing faster than almost anything else on this list.
So if we pull all of this together into one picture, here's how I'd actually break it down. Need a solid city car and you're fine knowingly paying a bit extra for the badge and cabin feel? The A3 is a completely reasonable choice. No shame in that. Want a balance of comfort and everyday drive-in feel? A6 or Q5. And worth repeating, the A6 is now functionally the top sedan in the lineup since the A8 no longer exists. Want the biggest flagship the brand offers? Wait for the Q9. But budget for a genuinely long wait if you're in North America. 2027 at the earliest, possibly 2028. Want to actually feel what Quattro was built for? Any RS model with an Avant body will get you there without needing to justify supercar money. The Nuvolari is worth understanding as a signal of where the brand's engineering is headed, not as a realistic shopping option. 499 units means it was never going to be available to most people who want one anyway. That's the system, not 12 names you'll forget an hour from now, a logic you can use to make a decision.